but you say on your website that the physical and psychological health go hand in hand. Can you explain why and how they impact each other?
Yeah, so I don't think I need to explain much about the physical to psychological, because I imagine quite a lot of people understand that when you're in pain all the time, it's just exhausting and it brings you down. You know, you feel fed up a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And that sort of difficulty in engaging with friends and family and work and things can obviously make us feel depressed too. And then what we were just talking about, that anxiety around fear of movement, the anxiety about going to see people like healthcare professionals, causes a lot of anxiety. But when you look at it the other way around, so with depression, the main symptoms are lack of energy, lack of motivation, lack of concentration, difficulty sleeping, difficulty eating. To then have to try and manage a chronic pain condition when you feel like that is really, really tough to do.
Yes.
Maybe you haven't got the motivation to do your physio. Maybe you haven't got the motivation to go to your Pilates class. And because depression sort of causes you to withdraw from friends and family, you then don't have that extra support around you. So it can really make it hard to manage. And depression can cause a lot of people to spend a lot of time resting because they don't physically have the energy or the motivation to do things. And then obviously your muscles decondition is harder to manage, particularly with EDS. You're more likely to have dislocations and subluxations if you're resting too much.
Yeah.
And if we look at anxiety, anxiety's got sort of a direct link to our gut. So if we're anxious, we're more likely to experience gastro issues. We're likely to have a lot of tension from anxiety, so like a jaw or shoulders or back. So the more tension, the more pain.
Yeah.
The more pain, the more anxious. So the more tense we get, and you get really, really caught up in sort of that vicious cycle.
Yeah. And it is a cycle, isn't it? It just and it's helping people break that cycle, isn't it? However we can get in and help them, either through physical, like movement therapy, or through sort of the work that you do, is helping.
And ideally them. Both.
Ideally both, just helping get off that sort of merry-go-round that doesn't stop. No, absolutely. And what advice would you give to our listeners who could maybe relate to your journey? So they've been through very similar things, very similar experience.
I guess a lot of it is a summary of sort of the things that I've said, but as no surprise, look after your psychological health as well as your physical health. You know, don't be afraid to ask for therapy or to go to see someone for therapy, because it can help so much. So the smaller the better is a massive piece of advice I can give. So whatever task you're about to embark on, can you make it smaller? Can you do it in chunks? So a massive turning point for me was cooking. I'd really struggled to cook a meal from sort of start to finish. And then an occupational therapist said to me, well, why don't you peel the carrots at like 11 and stick them in some water, do the potatoes at 1, and then chop the rest of the vegetables at 3. And then when it's time to cook your dinner, all you need to do is the stirring. And actually that's made a huge difference.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah. So breaking things down, pacing them out throughout the whole day, remembering that not everything needs to be done straight away, and some things can wait till tomorrow. That question, is it worth it? Is it worth doing the dishes now, or can you call a friend, you know? So doing something that's actually going to be really valuable.
Yeah.
And that idea of communication. So don't expect other people to be mind readers, and don't expect them to understand. You know, we find it hard enough to understand our own bodies and our own condition. So for somebody who's not living it, it is really hard. So communicating really calmly, really clearly, asking for help when you need it, asking for that support. I think that's just huge. Yeah. And perseverance. Don't be afraid to go back to your doctor again and again and again if you need to. You know, write everything down that you want to say to them. Don't be bullied out of an appointment, or sort of, you know, if somebody dismisses it, it's okay to go back and speak to somebody else.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are great pieces of advice. Thank you. think that's really, really important. All of that, everything you've said. Well, everything you said in the whole podcast has been fascinating. Yeah, really valuable.